I'm Stefano Leonardi. I'm a computer scientist working on the algorithmic issues in data science and the internet economics. So the internet made available a whole set of new economic activities, new type of markets, and also, of course, hosted traditional economic activities. A specific feature of the new markets that been made available by digital platforms is the one that providers and consumers can directly talk each other. So a good economic modeling for this type of markets is the one of two-sided markets with a class of agents, providers on one side and consumers on the other side. And this is also a good way of thinking of the rising exchange economy. So two-sided markets provide an exchange place between providers and consumers and service. So both act as strategic agents in a way, and then we need to provide the right incentives in order to operate these markets. There are many tools available in economic theory for regulating one-sided markets. There are landmark results that shaped the research in economics and more recently also in computer science and other disciplines for one-sided markets, like, for example, the weekly Clark-Grove mechanism for maximizing the social welfare in one-sided markets, or the Meyerson mechanism that optimizes the revenue for Bayesian agents. But much less tools are actually available whenever we need to deal with two-sided markets, and especially those type of two-sided markets that are of interest for the exchange economy. Let me give you some perspective on these problems and some recent results. So first of all, as I said before, we have two classes of agents, both act in their own interest, both providers and consumers of goods or services. And ideally, we would like to have the invisible hands of markets to improve the efficiency of the system by micromanaging the exchange between providers and consumers. And this type of economic systems live together, traditional economic systems, but I believe that we need to tackle the problem of designing large-scale facilities to manage such markets in a way that the exchange economy can be turned in the interest of the citizen rather than in the interest of a very few big players. I think that the news that we see every day in the newspapers make very clear how this is a real important issue to tackle. There are many examples of exchange economy that has already made a lot of their own way through today economics, and more will certainly become in the near future. Of course, the car sharing that provide two-sided markets between drivers and passengers, the house renting, Airbnb house renting that provide two-sided markets between house owners and renters. The next to come, micromanagement of renewable energy that will be produced at every house, and it must be injected right away in the grid because it's very expensive to store it. and must be matched on the spot with the consumers of energy. The online labor marketplace is emerging in the internet, where we have companies that will ask to process tasks and workers that apply for processing these tasks. These are new type of labor marketplaces that may be dominant, but may not be dominant, but certainly will emerge in the coming years. Certainly the advertisement industry, where brands like to advertise their own products, and publishers will make available spaces for advertising these products. Tool for exchanging kidneys for transplants between donors and patients. Online dating is also an emerging application, and other traditional one, but that nowadays are actually managed by algorithms, by large-scale algorithms, like the FCC spectrum allocation is ongoing in the current, now, in these days in US, and is actually managed by a two-sided market mechanism that has been developed in some US universities. And finally, of course, a very classical two-sided market is the one of stock market. So there is a lot, and these are very complicated systems. So that's, for example, a picture of all the companies that are involved in the display ads market. So this is a two-sided markets with advertisers on one side and publishers on the other side. This is a layer of about, it's formed by about 7 layers with tens of companies working in each of these layers. The real exchange is just in the middle at the 4th layer. For example, Google double click is there. So these are complicated problems and complicated markets, and so a lot of economic theory and a lot of computer science needed in order to operate it. Let me look into more in the design of mechanism and algorithms that can be of some use to operate these markets. And starting from the standard economic theory of optimizing the social welfare in a one-sided market. The benchmark, the cornerstone mechanism is the so-called Vickrey-Clark growth mechanism that allows to maximize welfare in a one-sided market. So a one-sided market is a market where we have one class of agents and a mechanism that will provide some goods or some services to these agents. Here we require something very important, that we provide the right incentives to the agents in a way that they can give away with their private information. So they will be in their interest to reveal their private information to the mechanism. So a mechanism that is able to achieve this goal is called an incentive-compatible mechanism. So it's a dominant strategy for each agent to submit the true private information. That's something that not always people are willing to do, indeed. Unfortunately, nothing like that is known for two-sided markets. In the two-sided markets, we have, as I said before, by providers on one side, consumers on the other side. In the middle, we have a mechanism. And the mechanism must decide the allocations, that is the agents that will exchange a good, and they also must decide on payments, must decide on incentives in a way that the economic transaction may actually happen. So The ideal goals of two-sided markets is the one of maximizing social welfare, that now is the social welfare of both the buyers and the sellers, or the providers and the consumers. The mechanism needs to be needs to be individually rational, means that no agents gets negative utility. Everybody is at least willing to try to stay in the to work with the mechanism. Must be incentive compatible. But then we have another important property, that the mechanism must be budget balanced. That means that all the money that comes from the consumers must be transferred to the providers. So the mechanism cannot subsidize the market or to make an arbitrary profit. And indeed, in many applications in the internet economy, we have that if the mechanism is executed, for example, by an exchange for advertisement, they take a fixed cut. The same fixed cut can be taken for taxation, or can be taken for redistribute to the society some of the welfare that is produced in the economic in this market. This is a very celebrated result by Roger Myerson, Nobel Prize winner, and Satterwhite, that it's impossible to design a mechanism that has these three fundamental properties. Some recent work motivated by this application. In some recent work, we proved with a set of collaborators from different places that actually it's possible to achieve all these properties if we are willing to give up with a small fraction of the social welfare. So what is interesting for this mechanism is that they use only a priori statistic knowledge about the agents. So they require this a priori statistic knowledge on the preferences of the agents, but they don't ask the agents to reveal their personal information. Let me conclude saying that these are interesting problems that will provide a framework to think about the markets that in the raising exchange economy. But we think we must go much further. There are many open problems. One open problem is to devise a large-scale, self-organized, distributed implementation of this mechanism. So the question is, can we avoid to have single players to run this mechanism and let this mechanism to be played by the agents in the distributed fashion? This is a crucial open question in this area. Devise algorithms for learning the preferences of the user from the historical data, because the statistical information is fundamental if we like to run mechanisms that don't ask the players to reveal their own private information. Then we like these mechanisms to be fair. We like to not be biased. And another open problem is to have mechanisms for which we can provide some certificates of fairness towards all the agents. And finally, we certainly like to study specific problems in many fields of application in the sharing economy. Thank you very much for the attention.
Questions? Maybe a quick one?
Yes.
I would like to know, how do you define sellers in the multi-platform case?
In the?
In the multi-platform case, how do you define the sellers? Because in the budget constraint equation, I didn't see any term for the platform provider itself.
So in the budget balance equation,
yeah.
we have payments that
Okay.
are collected from buyers, and they are handed to sellers.
But your mechanisms that you propose to impose, those will be provided by the platform provider.
No, the platform provider doesn't put any money in the mechanism.
So you're assuming
you just
it,
move money from
Okay.
buyers to sellers. That's
okay,
it.
okay,
So that's the theory.
okay.
That's the ideal goal.
First of all, thanks for the talk. Regarding the money open problems, so for the first one, are you thinking about something like the blockchain? I think it's a quite obvious question, maybe.
It may be, maybe, but not the only direction. Probably, right? Yeah,
I'm
certainly
curious.
it's a very, you should have a trusted third party that will run the mechanism. And it's a kind of an open problem, and there are recently first results in implementing incenting compatible blockchain implementations, right? So there are very few research results on this. I think it's an interesting, fantastic open problem. Yes,
If I may, a very quick comment. I think it's very interesting. I think it would be also important to look not just at the total welfare, but also at statistics of distribution, revenue and income distribution within the economy that you're trying to model, because typically that's something that has been neglected by economists for many, many years, and one of the reasons we had the financial crisis is precisely that. So now if we are,
we have another result on these two-sided markets where we look at the MV3 distribution.
At the?
MV3 distribution.
Okay.
MV3 allocation of goods in a way that the agents don't envy each other. That is not revenue, but optimizing revenue in two-sided markets is quite a difficult.
No, in the sense that apart from, there's a big debate, about the actual, the shared economy. On the one hand, it seems people can find new sources of income, but then in the end, many of these applications end up with concentrating wealth and income even more than the traditional economy. So there's a policy discussion there.
Yeah, they tend to basically maximize the volume of people that will come to the mechanism and will play the game. That's the only, but there are many other objectives that we may take into account.